Let's get right into it. Number 9. You don't crave their approval. Manipulators run on a currency called validation, and they expect you to pay up on demand. The second you stop asking, "Was that okay?" or "Are you mad at me?" the whole transaction collapses. Most people think confidence is loud. It isn't. It's quiet indifference to someone else's opinion of you. A manipulator tests this early, usually with a backhanded compliment disguised as concern. "I'm just worried people will think you're difficult." That sentence is bait. It's designed to make you perform damage control for a crime you didn't commit. The person who doesn't chase approval hears that sentence and shrugs. No spiral. No apology tour. Manipulators call this coldness. It isn't coldness. It's just the absence of a hook to grab onto. Here's the part they hate most. Approval seeking gives them a lever, and levers need somewhere to pull. Remove the need for their nod, and the lever swings at nothing. This is why narcissistic personalities specifically target people pleasers first. Not because they're cruel by accident, but because a person who needs external validation will self-correct their own behavior just to avoid disapproval, without the manipulator lifting a finger. It's outsourced control. You do the manipulating on their behalf, for free, out of habit. Once you stop needing the gold star, you become an unpaid employee who quits. And unpaid employees who quit don't come back for a pat on the head. They just leave the building. That's the real threat here, not defiance, just disinterest. Disinterest can't be argued with. You can't gaslight someone who never asked for your opinion of them in the first place. Number 8. You set boundaries without explaining yourself. Most people think a boundary needs an essay attached, like a terms and conditions page nobody reads, but everyone signs anyway. It doesn't. No is a complete sentence, and manipulators despise complete sentences because there's nothing left to dismantle. Give a reason, and you've handed them raw material. "I can't lend you money because I'm saving for a car" gets turned into a 2-hour debate about your car being a luxury and their rent being a crisis. Say, "I can't lend you money," and stop talking, and there's nothing to dissect. The technique even has a name, gray rocking, where you become as interesting and reactive as a rock sitting in a driveway. Manipulators feed on friction. Explanations are friction. Justifications are friction. A flat, undecorated no is smooth granite, nothing to grip. Watch what happens when someone refuses to over-explain. The manipulator escalates first, usually with guilt, sometimes with anger, occasionally with a sudden and suspicious change of subject. That escalation is diagnostic. It tells you the boundary worked, because a person operating in good faith doesn't need 6 follow-up questions after hearing no. The people who keep pushing after a plain refusal aren't confused. They're auditioning your resolve, checking if this no has a discount code hidden inside it. Hold the line without commentary, and you fail their audition spectacularly. That failure is the whole point. Number 7. You never forget what they say. Manipulators rely heavily on a short institutional memory, specifically yours. They'll deny a conversation happened, soften a promise into a suggestion, or flatly claim, "I never said that," with the confidence of someone reading from a script they wrote an hour ago. This tactic has a clinical name too, DARVO, which stands for deny, attack, and reverse victim and offender. Step 1. Deny the thing happened. Step 2. Attack you for bringing it up. Step 3. Somehow you're now the villain for having a memory. The person who keeps receipts, mentally or literally, breaks step 1 immediately. "You told me Tuesday you'd handle it" isn't an accusation, it's a citation. And manipulators have no rebuttal for citations, only deflection. Watch how fast the conversation moves to your tone instead of their contradiction. That pivot is a tell. It means the facts aren't on their side, so the mood has to become the new battlefield. Keeping a mental timeline turns every gaslighting attempt into a losing argument before it starts. You're not even trying to win, you're just refusing to forget, which for a manipulator is functionally the same as winning. This is why so many manipulative dynamics fall apart the moment someone starts writing things down, texting instead of talking, or simply saying, "Let's go back to what you actually said." Documentation is boring. It is also the single most effective anti-manipulation tool that costs nothing and requires no confrontation at all. Number 6. You don't chase closure. Here's an uncomfortable fact about ending things with a manipulative person. You will probably never get the apology, the explanation, or the neat final scene you think you're owed. People wait months, sometimes years, for a conversation that gives their pain a tidy ending. That wait is the last thing keeping the manipulator relevant in your life. A person who accepts the story ends without a bow doesn't need one more phone call to move forward. This single shift removes the manipulator's favorite reentry point, called hoovering, where they circle back months later with a soft, "I've been thinking about you" text, hoping the unfinished business sucks you right back in like a vacuum. It works on people still waiting for their sequel. It does nothing to someone who already closed the book and returned it to the library. Refusing to chase closure isn't the same as pretending nothing happened. It's recognizing that closure was never actually theirs to give you. You give it to yourself, in private, without their signature on it. Manipulators specifically avoid closing loops because open loops are leverage, a reason to still be in the group chat, still get the birthday text, still matter. The day you stop needing the explanation is the day their leverage evaporates completely. No more waiting by the phone for a version of events that flatters them. You just decided the story's over, and unlike them, you don't need permission to end a sentence. Number 5. You're financially independent. This one sounds almost too practical to be psychological, but money is the single most common leash in manipulative relationships, romantic, familial, or otherwise. Control over someone's rent, groceries, or bank access removes their ability to simply leave, and manipulators know this instinctively even when they'd never say it out loud. The person who can pay their own bills without asking anyone's permission holds a card that ends most manipulation attempts before they even begin: the exit door. Financial dependency creates a specific kind of hesitation: the pause before disagreeing, the swallowed comment, the maybe I'm overreacting, that isn't really a thought, it's a budget calculation. Someone with their own income doesn't run that calculation. They can say, "This isn't working," and mean it as a real sentence with real consequences attached. That's terrifying to a manipulator because their entire strategy depends on you having fewer options than they do. Watch how often controlling dynamics involve quiet interference with someone's job, their savings, their independence from a shared account. That's not a coincidence. That's infrastructure. Financial independence isn't about being rich. It's about having enough distance from someone's wallet that their mood doesn't determine your electricity bill. Once that leash is cut, every threat, every guilt trip, every "you'd be nothing without me" lands on someone who has already done the math and knows exactly how untrue that sentence is. Number 4, you recognize love bombing for what it is. Early in manipulative relationships, there's often an overwhelming flood of affection, gifts, compliments, and attention delivered at a speed that should feel exciting, but is actually a red flag wearing cologne. It's called love bombing, and it works by creating a reference point so high that anything less later feels like rejection, even basic decency. The person who's seen this pattern before doesn't get swept up in week one grand gestures. They notice the pace instead of the content. Real affection tends to build gradually, matched to how well two people actually know each other. Manipulative affection arrives fully formed, like a stage set built overnight for a play that hasn't been written yet. Someone immune to this doesn't reject kindness. They just clock the speed and wait to see if the behavior survives a slower timeline. Manipulators hate this specifically because love bombing only works on people who mistake intensity for depth. Ask a basic question like, "Why does this feel like a lot, this fast?" and watch the reaction. Genuine people slow down without offense. Manipulators often double down, accusing you of being unable to accept love, which is itself a manipulation tactic layered on top of the first one. Recognizing the bomb before it detonates isn't cynicism. It's just refusing to confuse fireworks with foundations. One burns out fast, the other actually holds weight. Number 3, you don't need witnesses to believe your own reality. Manipulation thrives in isolation, specifically the isolation of doubting your own perception without anyone else confirming it happened the way you remember. Gaslighting doesn't need an audience to succeed. It needs you alone with your own uncertainty. The person immune to this trusts what they saw, heard, and felt, even with zero corroboration. This is harder than it sounds, because humans are wired to seek social confirmation, and manipulators exploit that wiring by isolating targets from people who'd otherwise say, "Yeah, that happened, and it was weird." Cut off the outside perspective, and reality becomes whatever the manipulator says it was 5 minutes ago. Someone who holds their own memory as valid without needing a second opinion breaks this entire mechanism. They don't need a group chat to confirm he really did say that before deciding how to feel about it. That internal anchor is exhausting for a manipulator to fight, because there's no external witness to discredit, no friend to turn against you, no story to rewrite for an audience of one. This trait often looks like stubbornness from the outside. It isn't. It's just refusing to let someone else hold the pen on your own memory. Manipulators can argue with facts. They can even argue with witnesses. They cannot argue with a person who never needed permission to believe their own eyes in the first place. Number 2, you walk away mid-sentence, not mid-argument. Manipulators are skilled conversationalists in the worst possible sense, capable of redirecting, minimizing, or escalating a discussion the instant it isn't going their way. The trap is believing you have to stay until the conversation resolves, because leaving feels rude, or unfinished, or somehow like losing. It's none of those things. It's just leaving. A person willing to physically remove themselves from a conversation the second it turns manipulative denies the manipulator their favorite terrain: prolonged engagement. These dynamics need time to work, minutes stacked into an hour where confusion, guilt, and fatigue slowly wear down your original position. Cut the clock short, and the tactic starves. This looks abrupt to onlookers. It looks like victory to the person doing it. Manipulators often chase, verbally or literally, when someone walks away early, because the walking away itself is the loss they can't tolerate, not the disagreement. Watch what happens the first time someone says, "We're done talking about this," and actually gets up. The reaction tells you everything about whether the relationship was ever built on respect or just on your willingness to stay seated. Ending a conversation before it's supposed to end isn't immature. It's recognizing that some conversations were never designed to end, only to loop, and the only winning move is exiting the loop entirely, mid-sentence if necessary. Number 1, you don't need them to admit they were wrong. This is the one that actually ends things permanently. Every manipulative dynamic, at its core, is a bet that you'll keep circling back for an admission that's never coming, a version of "you were right and I was wrong," delivered with genuine remorse. People stay in toxic jobs, families, and relationships for years chasing that single sentence. The person who stops needing it removes the last thread holding the entire dynamic together. Here's the part that sounds harsh, but isn't. The apology was never actually the point. The point was always your continued attention, your hope, your willingness to keep the door cracked open just in case today's the day they finally see it. Manipulators are extraordinarily good at sensing that hope and rationing it out in small, motivating doses, just enough acknowledgement to keep you waiting, never enough to actually resolve anything. The moment someone stops needing the confession, the manipulator loses their last renewable resource. There's nothing left to dangle. No future conversation to hold hostage. No, maybe next time they'll get it, to keep you checking your phone. This is why the most dangerous person to a manipulator isn't the loudest one, or the angriest one. It's the person who simply stopped waiting for permission to feel resolved. They took the ending they were never going to be given and wrote it themselves. I make even more interesting videos like this one. Subscribe to see them.